the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
Coming to you live from deep within a well, that's a new fuck up. Within a muddy but windy and also sometimes sunny radioactive meme land. We're the survivors of the outright apocalypse. The few, the brave, the bitchy, once more wading into battle against the lobster hordes with Rantzerker number 102. Al-Jazeera says toxic masculinity causes school shootings. All right, we're gonna be switching the format up now. We're going to be going through the top 5 stupidest things said in this video first, and then after that, as long as we have a super chat featured, we will go through the other 5 runners up for stupid. So it'll be a full 10 stupid things, but the first 5 we'll go through first, and then we'll go back through and do the runner up 5, and hopefully we'll get through 10 stupid things in this video. And during the after show, we'll cover the rest of the video. And if you want to join us at that time, the link is www.patreon.com/HoneyBadgerRadio. I'm wondering what you're shuffling around there, Karen, because it's right in my ear.
What?
Right in there. I'm pretty sure it's you.
How, like, I'm sitting still.
You're sitting still.
I'm being completely silent. There's nobody in the room. I don't know. You're paranoid.
Okay, maybe
Alison.
I am.
It's not me.
Paranoid. I know, it's just okay. All right. Well, never mind then. Let's do. Do you want to just get right into it? I mean,
yes.
Just pull the Band-Aid off.
We'll just
have
the
jump.
ouchie.
I actually
right
just pulled a Band-Aid off. Just a minute ago, I pulled a Band-Aid off, and I'm regretting it. And I have the feeling that if we pull this Band-Aid off, we might end up regretting it as well.
Oh, I already know that.
Let's just fucking do it.
Today's stupidity is brought to you by Al-Jazeera Plus, the Qatar-funded, Young Turks supporting, Sharia apologizing force of Facebook activism.
Can I just say something?
And truth. Yes.
Can I just say something? It's a little bit ironic that Al Jazeera is talking about misogyny and toxic I'm not saying that I necessarily agree that, Muslim men are the one group of men on the planet that absolutely hates their women and wants to destroy the people who gave them life. But at the same time, just a comparison between the West and the Middle East would suggest that according to their definition of misogyny, they may not want to be throwing around those stones.
Al Jazeera Plus might want to make sure that their house is in perfect order before they attack the world, is what you're saying.
Yeah, they really need to read Jordan Peterson's book, clean their room, and then, try to actually improve the world around them.
I'm not sure the cleaning the room is going to help the stones and glass houses problem, but let's hear the first 20 seconds.
It is pronounced Qatar, right? I thought I had that right. Okay, so are we jumping to the time code, or are we just playing it from the beginning, 20 seconds?
Play it from the beginning to the end of the time code.
Okay.
Not all men will click away from this video about toxic masculinity, because we know that men are also hurt by sexist gender roles and a lack of gender equality. From small things like having to pretend you like BattleBots, to pretending you have allergies every time you watch The Notebook, to real traumas that can lead to things like mass shootings. We're talking about the men and the white supremacists who suffer from, perpetuate, and prey on toxic masculinity.
Well, that escalated quickly.
No shit.
It escalated to pure freaking unadulterated white supremacy.
Don't like The Notebook? Well, you might shoot up a school, asshole.
Don't like The Notebook? You might actually be a white supremacist wanting to oppress all other races.
I'm just a little bit baffled here because I'm pretty sure that white supremacists also involved women. There's female KKK, there's female Nazis. There was the woman that got Emmett Till lynched.
Yeah,
his
yeah,
dead
yeah.
body thrown in the river for whistling at her. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
They just disappear. Did they just disappear from history?
Oh, yeah, no. Of course they do. Of course they do, Allison, because women have no power. They have no freaking influence on society. In particular, the societies in which they live and are forced to exist in. They don't have any power whatsoever or influence. They are just essentially victims who are dragged along in the wake of white male supremacy. This is the narrative. This is what we are supposed to believe. This is the way things work, Allison. Don't you know that?
I know. I know that. That's the way things are supposed to work. So essentially, we're just going to ignore. We're going to jump right from liking battle bots as a problem to
How
school
is
shootings.
liking BattleBots a problem?
I don't know.
Allison?
I don't know. I'm not the one.
I like BattleBots.
I'm not the one saying
when I go and stay in a hotel room, right, with my boyfriend, when he has to work on site, and I go with him sometimes and stay in the hotel room with him for a week at a time, sometimes, right? And we have access to cable TV during those brief windows, right? And what do we do? We watch like Kid Baking Challenge, and like we literally watch the Food Network all the time. Beat Bobby Flay, Chopped, fucking Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares, right? We watch these. I used to be addicted to a show called How It's Made, right? That literally would tell you how, it would show you step by step how sheets were made, or toilet paper, or like plastic tubing was made, right? Like, this is shit that I used to like be just fucking like. Okay, so there's something toxically masculine about me.
Yeah.
Because I like this shit.
You might shoot up a school.
Or maybe there's something toxically feminine in that I'm not supposed to like this shit because I'm a girl, and girls aren't supposed to like it.
Wait, but aren't you also shattering gender expectations by liking it?
Apparently I am. And, honestly, the whole thing with liking BattleBots and, like liking anything, mixed martial arts, whatever, anything masculine. And you know what? I fucking was a fan of Hoist Gracie, right?
Oh, yeah.
Way back when it was like the Octagon and
I remember that.
The only things you weren't allowed to do were like fish hooking and eye gouging.
Yeah.
Right?
I remember
like
Dan Severance.
Way back at the start of that. I was like I watched that shit. I was like, oh my fucking God, Hoist Gracie. Like, he could be on his back on the ground with his feet up in the air, and you think he's being pinned, and then the other guy taps out because, oh my goodness, he was about to have his shoulder dislocated. And it's like, oh my fucking God, what an amazing thing. Right? Like, that was me back then in like 1995.
Yeah.
And like, somehow it's okay, and it's perfectly, and it's subversive, and it's like revolutionary and progressive for me to like that shit. But if a man likes it,
it's dangerous and scary. You know what?
OMG. I'm going to mute my microphone right now.
Okay. You know what, actually, I just wanted to say that I just thought about, if there was an incident of a female that went and shut up a school, I think feminists would celebrate it. I think they would say, oh my God, she is breaking gender norms and expectations. We should celebrate this. I honestly do. I think that would actually, they would be conflicted at least as to whether or not they should demonize it.
I just want to point out this tremendous movement from just battle bots with okay, that's a joke. It's a joke. I'm pretty sure that was a joke.
It's supposed to be a joke.
To jumping to school shootings and completely ignoring suicide statistics, education gap statistics, sentencing gap statistics, completely ignoring things that men face that doesn't involve them actually doing anything to anyone else, but having something done to them, and just going right to the male violence. And presumably all of those things are attributed to toxic masculinity. And let's just look at the sentencing gap. Is the fact that women serve 7 months for every year a man serves in jail for exactly the same crime and circumstances, is that also toxic masculinity? Is the fact that men kill themselves at 3 times the rate of women toxic masculinity? Of course, they're going to say, yes, it's all toxic masculinity somehow. Is the fact that boys are dropping out of school due to toxic masculinity? Is the fact that all of this is explained by the expectation that men benefit women before themselves or they're worthless? I mean, that's true.
Yep.
A lot of this is explained by men putting women first. And yes, there are men who kill women and men who kill other men. But nobody applauds. Nobody's applauding this guy. Nobody's saying, oh yeah, he's done a great thing. It's horrible. Everybody's condemning him. All of society is condemning him. How can you say that society supports something it obviously condemns? It doesn't just condemn it by making it illegal. It also condemns it socially. And again, 20 men, I've said this before, 20 men will kill themselves for every one person who is a victim of violence at the hands of men. That means that 340 men blew their own brains out in this before this one guy killed 17 people.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these people are focusing on the aberration and pretending that's the norm. And pretending it's the only thing that they need to explain about how patriarchy hurts men. And it's not. When we're talking about the education gap, the suicide, the great amount of suicide that men suffer, the sentencing gap, we're talking about society-wide problems. School shooting is rare. And the fact is that they point to these rare events where somebody who's been told all of his life that he needs to be a man, serve others, provide and protect, put away your emotions because other people need you to be strong. He's been told that his whole life and has tried to follow that. Loses his mind probably because he's got some issues mentally, and also he's a lot of these people who do this kind of thing, they have genetic markers, and so he's behind the 8 ball in terms of his social role. You're not allowed to talk about it because you got to put other people first. You might have a genetic marker to make it even worse, and mental health issues, and it all comes together to have a rare event. Mm-hmm. A perishingly rare event. And then we look at that rare event and we think it says something about men. I'm going to tell you something that isn't as rare an event. It's the event of a woman taking a child that she's just given birth to, strangling it, and throwing it into a dumpster. Are we going to judge all women based on that? Can you imagine that? You're just born, you barely know anything, and you got your mother's hands around your throat, crushing your windpipe? Can you imagine that? Having absolutely no way to fight back? Your life is completely snuffed out before it begins? Let's judge all women based on that.
Sounds like toxic femininity to me.
Yeah. Toxic femininity in our society encourages it. It applauds it. And you know what? There's an even stronger argument to judge women based on those isolated incidents of toxic femininity. Society, at least in Canada, gives women a legal pass when they kill their children. There's reduced sentences for mothers who kill their children in Canada.
There is here too.
Yeah, well, and like I said, they're focusing on the aberration and saying it means something when it doesn't. And we can, anybody can play that game with women too. Is Karen back?
She said she was muting for a second, so she might be listening in the background. Karen, are you here?
I'm here, but I'm a little distracted right now. Just you're gonna have to do without me for a few minutes.
Okay.
So,
all right. Let's go to the.
We'll go on to the next clip.
and a PS4, because men suffer from patriarchy in similar and yet very different ways. And I'm not saying that. He is.
What about all the boys who are profoundly affected on a negative way by what some adult man is doing against their mother?
Negative. I want you to go to the clip number 2.
I already got it.
No. Yeah. This is not it. This cats is not it.
No.
I have a.
I
have a number 2.
Yep, I have it. The circumcision,
Great.
right? Yeah.
Oh no. Keep going. It's number 2. It's number. Look down.
I see. Yeah.
Yes. There you go. Go for it.
Let's see. In CBI.
This is number 2. Stupid clip.
Here. Differences in frequency of violence and reported injury between relationships with reciprocal and non-reciprocal intimate partner violence.
No, but play the clip. Play the clip.
Of Jackson Katz?
No. Play the clip that I labeled number 2. It starts at 123 and it goes to 131.
Yeah. Okay, so 123.
No. Of the original video, Al Jazeera.
Oh, I see. 123. Okay,
Yes.
Let me jump ahead. Hold on. Okay.
I suppose I should
Women
get some...
and men are both victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, and men are the ones who are more often the perpetrators towards everyone. So if we know what we have in common, what are the problems that are unique to men?
Okay.
All right. So she's asserted that men are more often the perpetrators of domestic violence. Now you can bring up the reference.
Okay. All right.
This is
we are looking at differences in frequency of violence and reported
injury between relationships with reciprocal and non-reciprocal intimate partner violence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So almost 24% of all relationships had some violence, and half of those were reciprocally violent. In non-reciprocally violent relationships, women were the perpetrators in more than 70% of the cases. Reciprocity was associated with more frequent violence among women, but not men. Regarding injury, men were more likely to inflict injury than were women, which is an obvious thing because they're stronger, and reciprocal intimate partner violence was associated with greater injury than was non-reciprocal intimate partner violence, regardless of the gender or perpetrator. 70% of unilateral family violence is perpetrated by women. And the other finding of this particular research was that violence is more often initiated by women, reciprocal, or sole. Well, of course, the violence is going to be completely initiated by women when they're the only ones being violent. But in reciprocal relationships, women are the ones hitting first. Mm-hmm. This is a bald-faced lie.
Yep.
It is not supported by the evidence. It is not supported by the statistics. It's just a bald-faced lie.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's all I can say about it without Karen to chime in. I think this is going to be a lot shorter.
Yeah, perhaps. All right, so
okay. Apparently, Karen's mother-in-law just arrived, so she might have to drop out.
She might have to drop out. So this might be a short show, or we're going to get through all 10 points in an hour.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so now what? Because I just did clip number 2. What do you want me to do next? Like move forward, or go back to some of the other ones, or?
Go to number 3. It should be listed. You want me to give it to you? I got
it. 144 to 201. Yeah.
530 to 548. Go for it.
530. Oh, so I gotta jump down here. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, just jumping ahead here. All right, here we go.
City. Boop, boop. And toxic masculinity has been used to talk about a driving factor behind some of the most violent behavior. We already know that half of female murder victims are killed by a male partner or former intimate partner, but now we have the grim patterns found in mass shootings. Since 1982, 97% of mass shooters in the U.S. have been men.
Okay.
All right. I just want to note something about her expression right now. Do you notice the asymmetrical smile?
Yep.
It's awfully cheerful. as she talks about this thing that's so horrible, this horrible war on women, of which she is also a victim. I think that they need to get a better actress, because this one is revealing her duping delight once again.
Well, but I don't think I've never seen any of these kinds of commentators that don't do that. This is a very common thing to essentially take something very serious and then try to put a lighthearted, humorous touch to it.
Get really smug about it,
and it just becomes pure smugness. Yes.
No, and it's all about. Sorry to have disappeared for a while there, but it's all about attaching blame and shame to a certain group of people. It's like it's literally kicking a group of people. That's all it is, and getting joy out of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's like it's like Jordan Peterson
brief
has
moments of domination, right?
No, what he's repeatedly said about the rank and file socialists, not necessarily the people in charge of socialist parties like the NDP in Canada, the Green Party in the US, Ralph Nader, those people. But the rank and file, largely middle class socialists out there don't love the poor, they hate the rich.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really not about pity for the victims or sympathy for the victims of these things. It's about being able to pin a tail on a particular donkey and villainize it and really, really, really put yourself out as morally superior to that particular donkey, right? So that's essentially what I think that smile is about. Is women don't do that. It's not about it's not I care about the victims. It's women are morally superior to men. That's why she's smiling.
Yeah.
When she says that stuff. And I'm just kind of blown away. Like I said in the ad that I put up for this stream, it's over the last 5 to 10 years that school shootings and mass shootings have really, really, really increased. And yes, it's mostly men who are doing them, but this is like essentially a post-feminist society. This is not the patriarchy doing it. Where were all of the mass shootings during the heyday of the patriarchy in the 1850s? Where were they? Right? Why wasn't any man or young man or boy, adolescent boy, where were they? In terms of pulling out a gun and opening fire on a crowd of people. How is this connected with the patriarchy when we are well into the dismantling of the patriarchy, and all we're seeing is mass shootings on the increase, on the incline?
Yep.
There, I don't like this. Like, none of what she's saying. She's saying, oh, this is toxic masculinity. These are patriarchal notions of masculinity. Well, I'm sorry, but I was watching a thing, a Tucker Carlson Tonight segment on, something ominous is happening to men in America.
Mm-hmm.
And he essentially gave a litany of statistics that men's rights activists give out, and said, what is going on and why isn't anybody interested in doing anything about it? And I commend him for doing that. He said essentially the idea of the patriarchy as a sociological construct constructed by men to oppress women is either, in the best case scenario, it's no longer true. In the worst case scenario, it's a pernicious lie, right? Which is something that I just have never heard in the mainstream up until, very recently, right? But what we have right now is a society that's extremely geared towards allowing women every single freedom and opportunity that we can possibly give them, while absolving them of every single responsibility and obligation that we could possibly absolve them of. And this is the society that we live in now. And oh my goodness, men are imploding, right? And like Alison said, you have tens or hundreds of times the number of men who will simply turn their violence on themselves rather than on others when they're faced with this reality. They will act violently toward themselves rather than others almost always. And yet the only time we notice them, the only time we pay attention to them, is when they hurt other people, when they hurt people other than themselves. And how long can we sustain this? Because and the entire, how long can feminists sustain the notion that it is traditional aspects of gender roles, patriarchal aspects of gender roles, that are driving men to do this, when we have never been as free from patriarchy as we are right now today? And school shootings and mass shootings are more common today than at any other point in history. This is the thing. This is the thing with Andrea Dworkin, when she testified in front of Congress over pornography, and she said that pornography trains men to rape women, right? And she said this within the context of a society where rape had been on the decline ever since pornography left XXX theaters and you were able to get it via VHS tapes, right? So essentially, pornography became accessible. During the period that pornography became more and more accessible, rapes of women decreased by 80%. Okay, and she's trying to draw a causal relationship between viewing pornography and raping women, right? She said pornography trains men to rape women, and it contributes to the prevalence of rape. But she's using statistics that has the causality backwards. It's an inverse correlation, right? As access to pornography went up, rape went down, right? And as feminism has increased, oh my goodness, the toxic masculinity responsible for school shootings that we're supposed to believe, that's increased. How has that?
How has it not been questioned? How has it not been questioned? Well, here's something that's interesting about the school shooting business. Recently, there was another young man who went to school with a gun, and they found his writings. They found that he had talked about wanting to kill people. And then when he got to school, he just shot himself to death in a bathroom and didn't kill anyone. And I remember there was a cop that said, "Well, we can only thank God that he did so." I mean, thank God that he stopped and he spared his own life and then got some help. Thank God that he took himself out. Thank God that nobody was killed that day.
No. And it's thank God that he did so, not thank him that he did so. right? Because the suffering, the kind of suffering that you're talking about that would actually cause somebody to end their life, right? That's an amazing, unbelievable thing, that would actually cause somebody to consider taking their own life, and seriously consider it, not swallow a bunch of pills and then call a friend so that they can call the ambulance and then, you'll get help, right? Not that cry for help bullshit, that is more common with women, than it is with men, but the actual making of the decision to end your life for good, because that is the only solution to the problem. That is the only way out of the maze that you've been, because you're in a maze. You're in a maze, and I've been in a maze before. I've been in a situation before where my only option, right, the exit, was surrounded by people with baseball bats waiting to fucking kneecap me, right? And the only option was to kick a hole in the wall, and there was a place where I could kick a hole in the
Wow,
wall.
those cafe events are really rough.
There was a place where I could kick a hole in the wall and get out, right? Because because there is no assumption that that I am a criminal human being or inherently criminal, right? And so I knew that I would be able to kick this hole in the wall, right? And get out of the situation that I was in, that I was stuck in, right?
Is this metaphorical or literal?
It's literally how I felt. It's a metaphor.
Oh, okay, all right.
It's literally how I felt.
I got you.
But with men, there are so much fewer ways that they can kind of find that alternate exit, kick that hole in the wall of the maze, right? And so they come to a place where it's essentially like the preferable option is to simply end the situation, and the only way to end the situation is to end their lives, right? That's literally what it is. That is why so many more men take their lives than women. I guarantee it. It is, they don't have the kinds of options that women have to rectify the situation that is destroying them.
I just can't, like, it's amazing how othering that is. Thank God this, kid blew his brains out before he could harm anyone who mattered.
But the thing is, okay, thank God? No. Don't thank God. Thank the kid. Right? Like that's
they
really,
can't even give him that. They can't even give him that last act of quote unquote heroism of just killing himself.
And kindness and decency, and like that I'm the only person I'm going to take out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's so disgusting, right? That they will not look at these men who do this, right, as people who could have been helped, could have and should have been helped, and could have and should have been. And in so many of these situations, right, that I have come across, it's not that they need counseling. It's not that they need mental health help. It's not that they need meds. It's not, they need material help. They need actually, their suicidal depression is situational, like mine was, right? Okay. Their suicidal depression is situational. It is based on being stuck in a situation that you cannot get out of. You cannot see any way to get out of it. And this is the thing that drives me crazy. Like, because these are not mentally ill men. These are men who are responding rationally to a situation that where there's essentially no way out. There's essentially no way out.
Is it mental illness to respond by bleeding to torture? Like,
that's right. It's like like
But the thing is, if we can't acknowledge that, because if we acknowledge that, we'd have to acknowledge
we would have to acknowledge what we're doing to these men.
Yeah, we'd have to acknowledge that our social system is built on this idea that men should sacrifice everything in the service of others, and that they should receive nothing in response to that. I mean, the very word man, be a man, protect and provide for others, put your needs last, don't be strong and stoic, protect the women. If you don't take a bullet for your girlfriend, you're not a man. If you don't provide for her material needs, you're not a man. And I just want to drag it back to what the content of the clip. Please put up that reference that I gave you. The reference is actually Kentucky domestic violence. But what's interesting about it is it has one graph that is actually, the source of the graph is the U.S. Department of Justice. I'm afraid I don't have the exact. Brian, are you there? Brian?
Yes, I'm here. I was just
okay.
Muted because you guys were just talking. So
okay, well, I'm referencing the graph. So please bring up.
Yep, I'm doing it now.
You got it?
Yep.
All right. No, that's the incorrect one. It is the Kentucky domestic violence.
Oh, I had it up. Yeah, Kentucky domestic violence. Here goes.
All right, good. Keep going. All right, there you go. This is a really interesting graph. I'm going to describe it for those people who are not able to see the screen right now. It is a graph from the U.S. Department of Justice. It has tracked homicides of intimates by gender victim from 1976 to 2005. And what's interesting about it is that in 1976, you can see that the female homicides, so the homicides of wives and other female domestic partners, was very close in number to the homicides of males and of male domestic partners. So in essence, wives were killing their husbands at the same rate. Karen, can you mute, please? Wives were killing their husbands at the same rate that husbands were killing their wives, or very close to the same rate. And what's happened over the following 30 years is that the rate at which women were being killed by their husbands plateaued and only declined very slightly, whereas the rate at which wives were killing their husbands reduced significantly. So in other words, this individual is taking a situation that improved for men more than it improved for women over the past 30 years and describing it as an oppression of women or toxic masculinity. This is dishonest. It's profoundly dishonest. Something has happened. Something has intervened in the last 30 years to reduce the rate at which women kill their husbands. That's what's happened. And they don't acknowledge that that's actually what's happened. It's not a situation where this toxic masculinity, something has simply happened to reduce the rate at which wives kill their husbands. Is it a lessening of toxic femininity?
Right.
There you go. So I just wanted to bring attention to that graph so people know that this particular talking point is really flimsy, because there's some social factor. They're presenting something getting better for men as oppression of women, which is a really interesting concept. So let's go to the next time clip.
Okay.
And if you need me to tell you explicitly what it is,
no, I got it. 7:51 to 8:11. I'm getting what how you're doing it now.
Yeah.
So I'm jumping over to 7:51. Let me share the Pro screen so you guys can see it. And we're hitting play.
From the trolls who attacked female gamers in Gamergate, to men's rights activism which sees feminism as an existential threat to men's rights, to pickup artists who prey on male insecurity about not having sex or not having enough sex and then selling them tips on how to act more like a douchebag in hopes of seducing women. Listen, if it didn't work for Gaston, it's not going to work for you.
All right. This is ridiculous.
Oh, okay. Why? How is Milo a men's rights activist?
I don't know.
He's not. He's just a place marker so that people see him and they say, "Oh my God, Milo! I heard terrible things. Oh my God, MRAs are also terrible."
He is the most dangerous faggot in the world, so maybe we're all dangerous faggots. Actually, that's okay. We are. I'm going to address the pickup artist point. So what you're saying is that pickup artists train loser men, by your definition, to be completely undateable by turning them into douchebags. Well, isn't that a problem that solves themselves for you?
Yeah,
Like,
I know. It's like if men like Roosh V don't pull any fucking poontang, then it shouldn't be a problem.
Exactly. If it's not successful, if being a douchebag isn't success, what is it to you? I mean, seriously, what is this entire thing to you, lady, or the people who wrote this? If a bunch of men who aren't able to win out with the ladies are being taught by another man to continue to not be able to win out for the ladies, then what is it to you? And incidentally, Gaston was at least in the movie, until he went totally psycho, he didn't really do much. You know, like Belle was like, "I'm not interested," and he was like, "Okay, I'm done." Like, so I mean, you can't really be complaining about that kind of behavior. So a woman says, "I'm not interested," and the man leaves. What's the problem? Is it just because he has confidence?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't even know. You know, like, honestly, the thing that drives me crazy, you know, and I'm gonna point to Slate Star Codex. There is a he put up a blog post about Scott Aronson's comment number 263 or whatever the fuck it was. But he essentially described a patient of his. He's a I guess he's a resident in psychiatry, specializing, and he has a black patient who says, you know, comes in and says, you know, I'm trying so hard and I'm working 2 jobs and I can't get ahead and I just can't manage to get on my feet, and I just don't, you know, like, I see other people of different races or different socioeconomic situations, right, that have it so easy, and they don't even have to try, and opportunities just drop in their lap, and it's just really frustrating for me. And Scott, it's another Scott, who writes Slate Star Codex. He said, you know, I just don't know what to tell this patient of mine. But, you know, what I do know is that I shouldn't tell him, well, you know, the very fact that you're complaining means that you're toxically black, and that all employers should avoid you because you're probably going to steal from them, because you have no sense of how you're going wrong and how you're doing things wrong, and you just feel entitled to their, you know, your employer's money and all of this stuff, right? And he then went on to say, you know, if I were to respond like that to this gentleman, it would be so antisocial and so unjust that it could only come from the social justice community. And then he essentially wrote it was a rewrite of a feminist response to Nice Guys.
All right. I'm just gonna, I actually want to point something out. You know, if Gaston had just sort of let go of his one-itis on Belle, he could have drowned, or he could have eased his sorrows with the 3 blonde triplets who were all over him during the entire movie.
No.
It did work for Gaston.
He had one-itis. He was like, no, this woman is the woman that I must have.
Yeah. Like, yeah. And the funny thing is that the whole thing there, the whole presentation of that that septagram, or whatever you want to call it, because it's not a triangle, pentagram. That whole thing is, it has the man who has 3 women, 3 blonde triplets, And this is the beginning of a penthouse letter. Three blonde triplets drooling and dripping off of him, and he's got absolute one-itis on this one girl who reads books because apparently he's such a bore. Like, why would he even care? Anyway, so he has these 3 girls all over him, but he can't get over Belle. And she's better than them because she reads. And that's part of the story, too. I don't know if you noticed that. The women who like Gaston are morally inferior to Belle.
Yes.
And somehow he's not actually sort of winning if he could just get over his one-itis. Everybody would have been happy if Gaston didn't have one-itis.
Well, there would be no movie.
Yeah, there would be no movie.
So nobody would be happy because there would be no movie. And that's really the thing is, like this sort of, we love drama as humans.
Yeah, we do love drama, but I'm just pointing out that actually this woman is also wrong when she says it didn't work for Gaston. It did work for Gaston. The problem that Gaston had is that he gave too much credence to Belle. He valued her too much.
No, absolutely, absolutely. He had women fawning over him, and it's like he was pulling a lot of pussy, or could have,
and he was focused like a laser on the weirdest woman in the village.
Yeah,
it actually feels it's out now, starting to feel more like a power fantasy for women.
Yes, it is. It is absolutely. And just speaking as somebody who has read a lot of romance novels and has written some romance novels and all of that, it is absolutely a power fantasy for women.
For those of you who don't know, one-itis is a complete and total fixation on one particular woman, not realizing that there are other women available.
Other fish in the sea.
Other fish in the sea. One woman who's most likely not interested in you as a romantic partner. So it's basically Gaston's laser-like focus on Belle, as opposed to just saying, you know what? Weird girl.
I'm going to go with these 3 fucking triplets right now.
I'm going to go with the 3 hotties.
Holy shit. They're hot. They probably wash windows and dishes. They probably cook.
Probably make a sandwich.
Yeah, know how to make a sandwich, and they could. I could probably nail all 3 of them, maybe all at once, and that would be cool. And I just.
And they don't read, which is something I value.
And they don't read, so they're not going to act like they're smarter than me.
Yeah,
right. And that's a thing. Funny. That's a thing that both men and women are very, very sensitive about, is that they don't they want to be with someone who's about their intellectual level. They don't want to be with somebody who is so much smarter than them that they feel like a dummy.
When I watched that cartoon, I could never figure out why Belle was more attractive than the blonde triplets. They look like their facial features are identical.
Yeah, I don't think the triplets were supposed to be sisters. I think they were just 3 other bitches that were not Belle. I think that they were just. I know that's just what I think they were actually caricaturing those girls, not necessarily to be sister. I could be wrong, but I think they were just saying, well, Belle is the super special, brunette, smart, nerdy, but also beautiful, but nobody can see it, Mary Sue of the story. These 3 triplets are just random blonde bimbos that we don't like, that don't value the things that Belle does. And they're just going to be background decoration. And they're supposed to be shallow and, busty and just objects for... And I know that I'm using the word object, but I think they're there to make Belle look like a better woman. By comparison.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Because they like Gaston and Belle is like, no, not you.
Well, Belle's too smart
too provincial
for that. She can see right through them, yeah. So.
Yeah, well, she's a better person, right? Because she's urbane. They're just little provincial twats. Oh, man. And they like a man who can hunt. My God, toxic masculinity, right? Like I said, the whole problem with that, it would have completely been solved if Gaston woke up one day and said, you know what? Belle's not that attractive. She's a bit of a bitch to me. I'm going to move on. All right.
So
I want you to bring up the reference that I put in there.
Yeah,
the study.
Putting it up now.
And I just wanted to point out that when she says that men's rights activists somehow think that feminists are an existential threat to men's rights, no, you're not an existential threat. You're an actual threat.
Overt.
Because overt threat. You've been trying to remove due process for men accused of sex crimes, bringing the whole judicial system when it comes to sex crimes closer and closer and closer to a lynch mob. And just a few days ago, a man was fined for insulting a policewoman. So you're also creating a situation where if men insult women, they get fined. Maybe it'll move up to jail time. And now men can be arrested for sitting wrong on public transit.
If the guy didn't pay the fine, he would eventually suffer jail time if he refused to pay the fine. And if he refused to go along with him to prison, he could end up dead. I mean, like a fine, they'll people say it's just a fine. That's like the Bill C-16 thing. But it's like Peterson said, but lots of other people have said this. Once the government starts to fine you for something, it is, in fact, a threat. So either you pay the fine or you suffer the next level. And it goes on and on until, you either go to prison or you die. So I know that, and I'm not trying to be hyperbolic, but that is what a fine is. So just keep that in mind.
All right. And feminists have already instituted primary aggressor laws and domestic violence quotas. And how these quotas work is that if any precinct, any group of police in the United States arrests more than 15% of their arrests for domestic violence or women, they are looked into and pressured by groups that represent female domestic violence victims. Funnily enough, these groups that represent female domestic violence victims also somehow think that within their purview is women who engage in domestic violence, but whatever. So there's these quotas in place that police departments will be looked at if they deviate from. So if we did an awareness campaign to bring attention to men's issues like domestic violence as perpetrated by women, and that quota was changed, it wouldn't matter because they would be looked into and they would be pressured until it went down again, until they made sure that the arrests never went over 15% female domestic violence criminals. So they have to keep it at that. So it doesn't matter how much you bring awareness of male victims of domestic violence, they can't be recognized because there's a quota in place. That's something that feminists did. Mm-hmm. And I just want you to bring up that bit of yes. Okay. Thank you. So what feminists have done essentially is to create a situation in which a man is more likely to be arrested. If a man is suffering domestic violence from a woman, he is more likely to be arrested than the aggressor abusing him. This is a situation that they have created. So yes. And another example, and I'll go back to this one after that and just describe this research. Feminists in India and in Israel have either blocked or removed legislation making it a crime, the crime of rape, making it a crime for a woman to sexually violate a man. So for a woman to rape a man. Like, seriously, you're going to do all of this and then you're going to assert that feminism is not a threat to men's rights? Are you insane? Yes, you're not just an existential threat. It's not men just being like, oh my God, women are out of the cage and herp to derp. You are a literal, seething, breathing down the neck of men's human rights threat. And your actions prove it. And I want to look at this reference. It's help-seeking experiences of men who sustain intimate partner violence, an overlooked population and implications for practice. Mm-hmm. In this particular bit of research, it was found that a man is twice as likely to be arrested as the woman abusing him. And we're talking about a population of men who are experiencing severe abuse, extreme abuse by their by their partners. This is battered men as defined. Battered women is like extreme, persistent, continuous physical abuse. And these men were more likely to be arrested than the woman who was subjecting them to severe abuse. And this whole situation we can thank feminists for, because they created the quota system, which means that when police go to any domestic, they're pressured to arrest the man. And they created the primary aggressor system, so that when police go to any domestic, they're told to look for the one who can do more damage. And who is that? The man. Thank you, feminists. You are a very present, very real threat to the rights of men. And you know what? You don't speak for women. You just speak for your own political selves. That's all I have to say about that.
Well,
Shall we
thank
go
you
to
for
number
that.
5?
Yeah, let us go ahead into number 5, which is 951. So let me just jump up to right here. And we'll play it.
But again, don't take it from me. Take it from the men who are doing it.
I challenge you to see if you can use the same qualities that you feel make you a man to go deeper into yourself. Are you brave enough to be vulnerable?
Okay. Thoughts?
Oh, goodness. Are you brave enough to be vulnerable? Do you have any thoughts, Karen, about what happens when men are vulnerable? And what feminists do when men are vulnerable?
Well, I don't know if Karen is around, but I can tell you that it has something to do with, drowning in male tears mugs and Cry Some More and shit like that.
Well, here's the thing. Well, and I've said this before. Feminists want men to cry, but they don't think they have anything to cry about.
Mm-hmm.
Like how can you say to someone, yeah, cry, but you have nothing to cry about? Go crawl ahead and cry, but you got nothing to cry about. What is this? Is it some sort of sick bullying? Cry, and when you cry, I'm going to tell you, you have nothing to cry about. What is it that you're crying about? What is it you're crying about? But you got privilege. Why are you crying? You don't suffer this more than women. Why are you crying? You suffer these things despite having every single possible advantage, despite being carried on the backs of women. Why are you crying? Oh, wait, sorry. Do cry. So then I can point at you and ask you why you're crying. Like, what kind of bullshit is this? If you don't acknowledge the harms that men suffer and don't dismiss them with this idea that somehow that's them doing it to themselves, you don't dismiss that. Mm-hmm. And if you do, you're not giving a place for men to be vulnerable. You're giving them a trap. You're presenting a trap. You're creating a trap for them that you want them to enter so that you can do what?
Bully
Indoctrinate them? Well, that's the thing. This is what I'm sort of getting a vibe off of all of the feminists, the victim fetishists in the mental health profession. They'll say on a superficial level, yeah, come here and vulnerable. And then they'll suck vulnerable men into this kind of brainwashing where they give them an easy narrative that makes other men responsible or themselves responsible for their own problems that they have. Mm-hmm. And in some ways you are responsible for your problem, but not through some bizarre Byzantine conjecture about reality that doesn't, like, other men aren't responsible for your problems, and probably the fact that you're male doesn't make you responsible for your problems. Your personal choices may do that, but then there's also situations where men are subjected to things that are outside of their control. And they can create this entire narrative in which men do not have to recognize that they can be victims of women or society. So they can run away from any kind of healing. And it's brainwashing. And it's a little disturbing. And I wanted to leave it because we're sort of in the middle of it now. We're done. We've done the 5 items.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to leave it with this one little clip of a man, owning his vulnerability, being brave enough to be vulnerable. Not just be vulnerable in a therapist's office or with his female partner or with I don't know, his feminist group, but vulnerable on a TV show in front of an audience of millions. So let's watch this. Let's watch it.
Okay.
Why should you have the right to do that? It's been rather uncomfortable.
There you go. Do you really want that, feminists? Do you really want men to start owning their vulnerabilities? You know, to start saying, you're making me uncomfortable as a man with the things that you're saying, and making you face that? I mean, would you like men to do that? To start saying, hey, manspreading, you know, all of this is making me uncomfortable. Your behavior is making me uncomfortable. And what right do you have to do it? You want that? All right.
All right.
So that's the top 5 stupid things about this Al Jazeera video. If you want us to, well, should we read some super chats?
Yeah,
but
but there's 4 super chats.
Okay, all right. If you want us to continue to the next 5, then we're going to need those super chats. All right, let's read them.
Okay, so Joey Jojo gave us $5, and he says, I don't know if it's stuff like this, my teachers or myself, but every day I find myself hating being a man, masculinity, and male sexuality. I know it's tough. That's all I'm saying, but...
Well, you know, blissful ignorance might be better, maybe.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on where you're at. Okay. Do you have any other super chats?
Yeah, we do. We have 3 more. Zeranx gave us $10 and says, glad Karen's around, though I find I'm trusting her less than I used to. How does an advocate for men have issues with walnuts? I'm watching you, Karen. Smiley face. It's sarcasm. And Zeranx gives us another $5 and says, Gaston Newbell was a furry chaser. He totally disagreed with her decision and wanted to save her from it. Okay. Joey Jojo gives us another... Oh, Alison, do you want to respond to that one?
I don't know if I have a response. Let's
I
just go to
think
the next one.
Gaston New, like Knew. That was a really confusing sentence. So, okay, Belle was a furry chaser, as in the Beast is a furry and she was chasing him. I get it. All right, Joey Jojo gives us $5 and says, if men are such a problem, who don't we why, maybe? If men are such a problem, why don't we segregate men and women or just force 80% of men to be eunuchs or women? Well, isn't that what feminists are trying to do in many ways? Isn't that Sharia law, like separating men and women? Yes. Give up women-only supermarkets, or at least aisles. They have that in the Middle East, where there's sections of stores that only single men are not allowed in. So, Arctic Master 1190 gives us $4.99 because I guess he's using a phone, and those are the problems with those. He says, I think that's called the carrot and the stick, the crying dichotomy. He's referring to what you're saying. The crying dichotomy is the carrot and the stick. Okay, those are all the super chats.
Those are all the super chats. Looks like we're ending it early. All right, good night, everybody, or good evening. We're going to go
the Arctic Master gave us that one just now, but there's only a little bit of time left before it goes away.
Yeah, okay. So we're going to be going to the patron after show. Thank you for all for joining. I hope you enjoyed the top 5 stupid things in this video, and put it out.
Okay, well, so we did get through the whole story. Basically, this was the general gist or thrust of this video, so we're not missing out on anything. And we'll see you guys in the after show when we just sort of fuck around with the rest of it.
Yeah, okay, www.patreon.com/HoneyBadgerRadio if you want to join us in the after show.
All right.
Good afternoon.
Do it.